The Earcon Dilemma, When WCAG and Usability Don't Get Along, by Lauren Hayes. 10 Years of Alibytes 2022.
Hi, my name is Lauren Hayes, and I'm a Junior Digital Accessibility Consultant at Intopia. I'm a screen reader and Braille user, and prior to coming on board with Intopia, I gained a lot of experience in accessibility testing from an end-user perspective. I played in the shallows of the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, waters, but since joining Intopia, I've started venturing into deeper water. I'm quickly learning that WCAG and usability creatures are not always friends, and somehow I have to find a way to keep afloat while they fight alongside me. I find usability is much easier to get along with, but of course WCAG has its place too, and I try my best to help them coexist. When they work together, it's a fantastic experience, but when they don't, it's exhausting trying to find a happy medium. To illustrate this, I'm going to talk about accessibility and earcons. Recently, I was testing an Android app with a colleague, and we came across a button which did not have a required role, or so I thought. Visually, it looked like all of the other buttons we had seen in previous screens. TalkBack read its text label, and after a short delay offered a hint to double tap to activate it. I immediately flagged this as an accessibility issue because the button role had not been announced until my colleague pointed out the earcon. An earcon is an audio equivalent to an icon. We are surrounded by them, and we are so used to them that they have formed the background hum that is part of our everyday lives. The beeping of traffic lights when they change between red and green. The beeping of the microwave telling us our food is heated. The ringtones and sound effects alerting us to calls and text messages. Along with each of these sounds, there is a visual representation. The changing traffic light colours, the timer on the microwave reaching 0, the contact information or notification icons on our phones. In theory, earcons have been developed to work in conjunction with screen readers to help us navigate our computers and phones. Let's take a quick look at how this works on iOS. As I swipe between apps, VoiceOver makes a clicking sound like this.
Home, Finance folder, News, Settings, Health, News, Finance folder.
When I move into the dock at the bottom of the screen, a different clicking sound is heard.
Page 1 of 3, dock, Outlook, recently updated.
When I reach the end of the screen and can't swipe any further, a thudding sound is heard, as if I've run into a wall.
Safari, music, music, music.
Android has similar sounds to iOS, and in addition, also has sounds to differentiate between interactive elements and plain text. So these first 3 are interactive elements, and the 4th will be plain text.
Skip to content. Home. Collapsed. Menu. We're creating an inclusive digital world. Heading.
Let's go back to our button without a required role in the Android app. After further investigation, I learned the button was marked up correctly, but TalkBack wasn't announcing it. Instead, the earcon and hint to double tap the element took the place of the element type being announced. Therefore, I couldn't mark the lack of element role as a failure. There doesn't seem to be any logic as to when TalkBack announces an element's role and when it uses hints and earcons only. I find Google's design choice incredibly problematic as it makes various assumptions about users of assistive tech that are not always correct. Firstly, it assumes that users have hints and sounds switched on. Personally, I turn these on for testing purposes, but more often than not, I keep them switched off. They're like an auditory equivalent of visual clutter on a screen. Secondly, it assumes that users will be in a quiet environment and that they have perfect hearing. In a noisy environment, even with headphones plugged in, much more concentration is required to distinguish an element from plain text. The earcon sounds are subtle, and while there are vibrations to accompany them, some users may find the tactile differences hard to distinguish. For users who are deafblind or hearing impaired, the earcons will be impossible or very difficult to hear. Thirdly, it assumes the users will be aware of Android's unique accessibility features. In the event they are not, they may contact the app developer to provide feedback about accessibility improvements. There are instances where accessibility feedback is warranted, but in the example of my testing scenario, the developers had done nothing wrong, and I initially blamed them for something that wasn't their fault. From my personal experiences, these assumptions about users of assistive tech make me feel as if I'm being blamed for the inaccessibility of a product. I can't turn earcons off or customize my settings because this might cause something to become less accessible. It's my fault that an app isn't accessible because I used my phone on a noisy train. It's my fault for not taking the time to learn what the earcons mean. Android earcons also pose problems for developers. Google decided to design TalkBack in such a way that it announces an element's role inconsistently, even when developers have taken care to ensure their app is accessible. Developers cannot implement an accessibility hack in order for an element's role to be announced because it will be flagged as an error by Android's accessibility scanner and may create further accessibility issues for the user. This is one example of a frustrating user experience occurring even when WCAG is adhered to. There are clearly gaps between the design of assistive tech, WCAG, and the user experience that need to be addressed. Unfortunately, I don't have a solution to propose, but I hope constructive conversations can take place between WCAG authors, assistive tech developers, and users to create a seamless user experience for everyone.
Celebrating 10 years, Ali Bytes 2022.